G'day crew, welcome to Goat Fantasy. Nice to have your company. It's the Lachie Whitfield Update edition. Goat Fantasy brought to you by checkmyrates.au. Visit the website, it's free to use. Take control of your financial future. If you want to save on your home loan, contact Brandon and the team. Mention the Goat Fantasy podcast. Drew Jones with you as always. We're back for another week ahead of round 18 of the AFL fantasy season. And yes, we're back to talk about another potential forced trade, and that is Lachie Whitfield, who got concussed for the Giants against Fremantle in their win in Canberra. So this is frustrating. I think I sent Warnie my forced trades team for the season, so we're up to 20 at the Mountain Goats. It's a pretty decent looking team on paper. So Whitfield falls into this category of, could we hold him for a week and hope that he comes back from his concussion on time? Or is it just a straight trade, get him out, we're missing him this week, and just, cash in to have another premium on field in his place? Or are you at a point where you want to keep improving your team, get rookies off the field, and you welcome Whitfield back after having the weekend off? So, spoke about this on AFL Tonight only a few minutes ago, and I've been chatting with the Giants today. So Whitfield, as we know, has had multiple concussions, and that's probably where the concern comes about not just missing one game, but missing two. But after speaking to the Giants today, I feel a bit more confident that it's only going to be 1 week. So I was told that he has pulled up quite well, despite it being quite an aggressive-looking concussion, like getting a pretty savage elbow to the face. Definitely, visually, it looked quite scary. And I know there's a lot of focus on concussion at the moment. So it is still very early days. He misses the game against Geelong this weekend at NG Stadium. And then I think they've got the Bombers off the back of that, just off the top of my head. But the likelihood is here that the Giants are going to just treat this as a concussion, an isolated incident. They're not just going to think, because Whitfield's had a few, that we're going to hold him out for a couple of weeks. So early signs are good. So if you are thinking, maybe I could hold Whitfield for a week, cover him with Hugo Hawker-Hahn or whatever your backup is, and then hope that he's back for what could be a good matchup after that. I think there's some merit to that. If you've got the cover to hold Whitfield for this week. If you feel like you want to trade him in and maximise those dollars, let's go through some names. So obviously Nasiah is a must-have, what feels like he's a must-have at the moment. Massive score as we expected against Essendon. Maybe you're a little wary of the Geelong tag to come in a couple of weeks. But where else can we look outside of Naz? So Caleb Daniel poor on the weekend, but the matchup didn't really suit him against Port Adelaide. His form, I think, before that was 2 consecutive 40 disposal games. Can I tempt you with Caleb Daniel? Or what about Brad Hill, who has clearly moved to the backline in the absence of Sinclair and racked up a massive score, and he's got back status now. So he's a triple position player, which I guess is pretty handy. He's affordable. AFL Fantasy, I believe, is just a tick over 800k. So do you think, A, was it just the Essendon matchup? Or B, is this going to be a permanent thing without Sinclair? He certainly looked good yesterday, but hard for any player to look bad in that role against Essendon, who are parking cones, let's be honest. So Brad Hill. Luke Parker has been in really good form over the last few weeks. He had a dip through the middle of the season after starting the year really strongly in defence. But this North Melbourne run coming up is pretty reasonable. They've got a game against Collingwood under the lid on Friday night, which should be a good matchup for defenders. Bailey Dale racked up a massive score on the weekend, lots of kick-ins against the Swans. The only flag I would have on Dale is that West Coast and Milan Murdoch are coming this Sunday at Marvel. So I think if Murdoch doesn't tag him, then he's probably in for a big game against the Eagles. But there is some risk there that Milan might do the job on him. And then Holmes has been so reliable, hasn't knocked out any massive scores, but has been pretty consistent. And then Callum Wilkie is the other one. So Wilkie v Hill, you save a bit of money on Brad Hill, but there's there's the reliability of Wilkie, who gets the intercept marks as well as the chips around the back line. There's a few different ways that Wilkie can score. He got a ton after a really slow start against Essendon on the weekend. So I feel like he might be a popular player this week. Feels like he's underpriced for what he can do because of that game where he came off with the back injury. I think it was quite early. So one to think about there in defence. Some other names to throw around. So a lot of talk last week about getting Naz and Baz off the bye. It still feels like going to the top of the tree in terms of the superstars. That's a good move, and perhaps Whitfield might be a way to get to Bailey Smith if you make some cash elsewhere and do some DPP. So I'm certainly not going to discourage you from going to the top because Naz knocks out a 160 and Baz gets a 120 odd in a pretty tough matchup against the Lions, albeit the fact he has scored big against them twice this year. He is built different, as we know. And then, Roll Marshall was really impressive first up. Again, it's Essendon. Nick Bryan has just been a disaster, really, coming back from the ACL. Maybe that's a bit harsh. It's taken him a while to get back to AFL standard. So Roll Marshall has been fantastic in that lone ruck role, as we know. But you're trading in someone who potentially you're going to have to move on later. And you've already missed 1 week of good scores. But he is very reasonably priced if you feel like you need to upgrade your forwards. Luke Parker, I've already mentioned. I feel like his reliability in that role and his scoring potential is high. He could be a nice guy to bring in either in your centre line or in the back line. And then I've just got the lines noted down here. So Neil, Ashcroft and Dunkley. So Ashcroft is now getting towards the point where he's fairly priced, but he is smashing out some massive scores. I feel like Neil is one who, and Dunkley as well, because of the Lions' struggles through the first half of the year, perhaps they're a bit underpriced, and certainly for Dunkley that's the case. He knocked out, I think, double figures in tackles on Thursday night against Geelong, and that's where he's going to get his, he's going to really have his scoring go through the roof, is if he's able to get back to those tackling areas. I just feel like the new rules around, less congestion, less stoppages, I think that probably hasn't helped him. So that's a risk. But certainly, he looked back to his old self against the Cats. And then Zach Bailey is the other one. So a bit of hamstring awareness, but he didn't go for a scan. So sounds like he is pretty much certain to play this weekend. They've got a good matchup, the Lions. And it's pretty hard to find a forward who is reliable at the moment. I'm looking in that area this week. Perhaps that's why I've sort of lent towards having Bailey in this chat. But if you're looking for forwards to bring into your side who feel reliable, then Bailey kind of fits into that category. I'm pretty keen to turf Murdoch, and Cook's been terrible the last couple of weeks. So it feels like Bailey's someone I can lean on, contract year, and is going to be fairly reliable. So there's a few names for you. Sam Durham was good in Supercoach, but not in fantasy. But I still am a Durham believer, and is still really well priced. So again, I wouldn't be afraid to go there. And just from a rookie perspective, I think, really Franco is kind of the obvious move this week from an AFL fantasy perspective, and probably, to be honest, in Supercoach as well, even though he's only played 1 game. Pretty sustainable scoring method, getting CBAs, laying tackles. He looked pretty good. When he got shunted out of the midfield for Yo, that was a bit disappointing, but certainly he's shown enough in his first game. And then Miraz was really good. Took a bunch of marks for Hawthorn. I'm just not sure about his job security. There's a bunch of defenders who need to come back for the Hawks, but certainly he seems like he's ahead of Bodie Ryan, but it was a replacement for Josh Battle, so essentially. It's a tough one. Unsure if he'll be able to replicate that going forward. And then Gota is on the bubble in Supercoach, and he's still affordable-ish. Does he get the boot this week? There's a lot of halfbacks in that team. 5-day break with his injury history. Not certain that he plays Friday night, so just one to watch this week. So that's pretty much it from a rage trade perspective after a bit of Lachie Whitfield chat. One to follow, that's for sure, over the next couple of weeks. But early signs are good for Whitfield. Bailey, good news that he didn't go for a scan. So we haven't been hit too hard here by any long-term injuries. Haven't been blown out of the water, which is nice. But yeah, we've still got a fourth straight potentially on our hands. And then Sam Banks is the other one who I haven't got in my notes. But yeah, knee-on-knee collision for Banks. That's why the scoring slowed down pretty significantly, particularly in the last quarter. He is likely to play this week because he has the 8-day break. They play the Demons G on Sunday. All right, over and out from Goat Fantasy. We'll chat soon. Thanks for your company and catch up soon.